Hey, how are you doing, ProGuides family? Welcome back again, and I hope you're having a great day because today is a big one. Today, we are going to be covering what you need to do in order to become a professional player. So for all of you guys aspiring to become one yourself, make sure you're taking notes. But for the slightly more casual players, this comprehensive guide will have some great stuff for you as well. Before we get into it though, it is of course time, well, you know what time it's for. It is time for our question of the day. And today's question is, who do you think the best player is? Personally, I'd like to say Simple or ZywOo because those are the safe answers, but I'm gonna get a bit different and say Glaive. I think he was massively important for Astralis' long-term success and that he can't possibly get enough credit, especially if you consider he was never a bad fragger either. With that out of the way, let's start off by talking about something everyone has to deal with sometimes, that being getting tilted. Every player has at some point tilted, some worse than others, but everyone has had to deal with it at some point, even pros. The biggest difference between pros and casual players though is how they deal with it. I'm sure we've all found ourselves in a position that we were so tilted that we started making bad decisions, started raging, and overall just not playing our best. When you're tilted, you stop focusing on the game and the situation at hand, and instead you're focused on how much you're missing, how bad your teammate is, or maybe even how lucky your enemies are. Surprisingly enough, those thoughts aren't super helpful and will not help you win the game, so you need to get rid of them. Once you are tilted from a game, always take a break afterwards. If you don't, you'll play much worse the next game and you'll only get more and more tilted. But of course, you'll usually get tilted in the middle of a game, so taking a break won't fix all of your tilting problems. Because of that, it's much better to try and prevent tilting instead of always trying to untilt. So, how do you prevent yourself from tilting, you might ask? Great question. And in order to prevent yourself from tilting, you need to recognize when you start tilting as early as possible. If you realize something is starting to tilt you, try to deal with it immediately. If your teammate is toxic, for example, make sure you mute him right away. If you instead notice your own performance is tilting you because maybe you're going 007, then you should try to realize that if you get 2 or 3 good rounds, you'll be back on the scoreboard again. If you instead allow it to tilt you and you're overly focused on your score, I can guarantee you that you won't be able to turn it around and won't have a good game anymore. What it comes down to is you need to try to avoid tilt as much as possible by dealing with it the moment it arises. But if you can't and allow your tilt to take over, you must take a break to get your head off Counter-Strike and calm down. Apart from tilting, your mindset and attitude are also extremely important, so let's talk about that for a bit. In order to be a pro, you need to have a winner's mindset. You can't let a bad game or bad round affect you. You can't let that toxic guy lose you the game, and you can never ever give up on a game, even if you're down some rounds. Never give up, never surrender. Additionally, you need to have a really good attitude. No matter how bad your teammate might be, you need to stay nice. If you really want to go pro, it helps so much if you're likable. There are exceptions, of course. Simple got in a pro team while still having some bad attitude issues, but he's of course mechanically one of the best players of all time. If you really want to be picked up by a pro team and become a pro player, you need to be an ideal teammate. Don't just focus solely on your own performance, and try to help your teammates as much as you possibly can. You have also got to realize that you can't just play a few hours every other day and expect to go pro, because sorry, that's just not going to happen. If you truly want to become one of the best, you need to dedicate yourself to Counter-Strike and put in your all. Dupree lost his father just days before the 2019 Katowice Major started and went on to win it. ZywOo found out during the Summit 4 that his stepfather passed away, and not only did he win the event, he even took the MVP award. I'm not saying you have to play even if you just suffered the loss of a family member, but it does show you how much dedication these pro players have to the game. If you really want to be the best, you need to show a similar level of dedication, and you can't let real life stuff affect you in-game. In essence, you need to have amazing dedication, and you need to be the best teammate you can possibly be. Another big problem that a lot of people have is playing for the stats. Playing for the stats is when your primary objective is to have a good kill-death ratio and a high amount of kills, and not necessarily getting 16 rounds by any means necessary. You can notice if you are playing for stats if you find yourself looking at the scoreboard a lot, caring about your own kills and deaths, caring about your teammates' kills and deaths, or maybe even judging them for it. But also if you find yourself thinking more and more about how you can just get a kill instead of how you can win the round. The reason that this is so bad is because it honestly doesn't matter how many kills you have, but rather how many rounds you've helped with. Getting 3 exit frags and saving is usually a lot less impactful than getting a kill and getting traded, or even getting no kills and getting traded. If you die and in return your teammate could get a kill or even get map control, you just played a great round. But if you look at the scoreboard, you died without getting a kill and with low ADR. Playing for stats might make you look like a really good player to simple-minded people that only look at the scoreboard, but you'll quickly be spit out by any noteworthy team as you're not at all valuable to them. Try to not worry about the scoreboard other than to look at the money. Instead, focus on how you can help to win your team each round, no matter what you have to do. If you need to bait for your teammate to help him get a multi-kill, you should do it, no matter how bad your stats might look. You'll win way more games this way, and truly good professional players will notice your worth. What you should take away from this is that it honestly doesn't matter what stats you have. As long as you are actively winning your team rounds, if you're not having an impact, your stats can still be great and you might think you're playing well, but in reality, you're losing your team games. Of course, the best players also have to work the hardest to become the best, and you should too. A problem a lot of players have is they think their mechanical skill is already good enough. They think that they already know how to do simple things like counter-strafing, for example, or don't see the need to practice their movement. No one is perfect at any skill, and there's always room for improvement. One of the best professional aimers, Nico, deathmatches for hours each day. That's the reason he has become one of the best aimers and why he'll continue to be one of the best. If you put in the most work and you do so in an effective manner, you'll eventually become the best. Don't settle for just being good. If your counter-strafing skills are good, they're not great. If they are great, they're not amazing. And if they are amazing, they're not the best. And if they are the best, you're still not the best you can be. And the same goes for any skill, not just counter-strafing, of course. If you think you want to be able to get those one-taps like Scream, practice twice as hard as Scream, and instead try to become even better than him. The moment you settle for your current skill set is the moment you'll stop improving, and if you stop improving, you won't go pro. Even if you are currently a professional player, if you stop trying to improve, you'll eventually be forced to stop being a professional player. What I want you to realize is that you can't go pro without putting in the necessary hours, practice, and dedication. And the moment you settle for just being good is the moment you'll never become a pro player. Another big thing in order to really improve as fast as you can is playing to improve instead of playing to win. That might sound weird, especially since we just talked about not playing for stats, but this is something different. How do we improve? Well, mostly by playing against and with better players, by almost losing, if you will. Let's say you're playing against a pro player who's queued with a few of his IRL friends and are honestly quite new to Counter-Strike. The pro player is playing on A and his silver friends are holding the B site. If you decide to go B, you can easily run over the friends and force the pro player into an unfavorable retake. You'll be able to take rounds with relative ease. If you instead decide to try and take A, you're more likely to be demolished over and over again. So surely you'll want to avoid pushing A at all costs. But if you really think about it, what decision will you learn more from? What site should you attempt to take if you really want to improve? If you try to go A over and over again, you'll more than likely lose the game. There's no denying that. But you'll be learning so much more than from just running over and over the same players worse than you. Another thing you can do is playing with friends who are better than you. Because they're higher ranked, you'll be versing better opponents which will be able to punish your mistakes better than people of your own rank. As a bonus, your friends can also give you tips and advice. Playing against better players is usually not a lot of fun because it undeniably will help you improve much faster. One last thing, that's not playing to win, but instead playing to improve has to do with practicing your aim. And this is something I've dealt with personally. Personally, I've progressed through the ranks quite fast, and my aim was always good enough even though I don't usually get a lot of headshots. I was able to spray quite well, so my time to kill was pretty low. But at some point, I started facing opponents that were usually able to instantly headshot me basically every time. I knew I really needed to improve my aim and aim for the head more in order to get better than those guys. But in order to do that, I first had to take apart what I had developed. I needed to really slow down my aim in order to get those headshots. At first, I wasn't really used to it, and I hated it, and it was very tempting to go back to my old habits. But after a while, I was able to finally get those needed headshots, and with that, able to break through low elo level 10 on Faceit. Basically, if you're truly dedicated to improving, you'll need to focus on your goal even though you'll sometimes have to sacrifice some kills or wins you would have gotten otherwise. Lastly, you need to be watching your demos. Pros watch theirs and their opposition's demos all the time, and you need to be doing the same. By watching demos, you'll be able to fix mistakes you otherwise would not have seen and improve way faster than just playing. I'd recommend getting a coach to watch your demos with you, especially if you have big goals like going pro. By having a coach around, you'll improve at a much more rapid speed, and I say this as a person who's personally been coached, ever since I can't stress it enough. Luckily, over on ProGuides.com, we have some of the world's best coaches just waiting to help you out, so make sure to head over there as soon as the video ends. Just to quickly reiterate, firstly, you'll want to fix all of your tilting issues and get the best mindset and attitude possible. You also have to stop playing for stats and instead play to improve. Make sure you're also improving your individual skill by practicing your fundamentals as well as watching your demos with a coach. Well guys, that is all for now. I'm sure that was a lot to digest at once, so don't be discouraged to watch it back once or twice, and make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and even hit that notification bell to never miss out on another ProGuides video. On your way out, go on over to ProGuides.com as well, of course. You'll be able to secure one of those professional coaches that we talked about for yourself. In addition to that, we even have the one and only master course by Simple himself on there. And with that, I wish you the best of luck in your pro career and a good rest of your day.